What happens when the quiet new girl at prom turns out to be the one person her bullies should have never messed with? I'll be honest with you, some stories don't wait for the drama to show up. They start right in the middle of it, and that's exactly how this night felt for Marina Cole. The kind of night that can change the way a person sees themselves forever. The prom was held at a hotel ballroom in St. Petersburg, Florida, one of those places with shiny floors and chandeliers that make everything look fancier than it really is. Students poured in wearing bright colors, loud suits, sparkling dresses, everyone trying to outdo each other. But Marina wasn't thinking about any of that. She stepped out of the Uber her aunt booked for her and took a slow breath, smoothing down the soft blue dress she'd altered herself the night before. It wasn't designer, it wasn't expensive, but it was hers. Okay, just blend in, she whispered to herself. Inside, the music beat against the walls, and the crowd moved like one giant wave. Marina kept to the side, clutching her purse tighter than she needed to. She didn't know many people yet. She'd only been at Jefferson High for 3 months, enough time for people to recognize her face, but not enough for anyone to really know her. And honestly, she was fine with that. But that's when they noticed her. Dylan Mercer was the first to see her walk in. He nudged Brandon Keaton, who then tapped Jace Holloway. 3 smirks appeared at once, like they shared a single brain cell and one bad idea. Jace leaned toward the others. Who invited charity work? Brandon chuckled. That dress looks like it came from a church basement. Dylan didn't laugh right away. He studied Marina, eyebrows raised, as if she offended him just by existing. Then he grinned. She really thought she was going to slide in here unnoticed. Marina tried to pretend she didn't hear them, but their voices carried. They wanted her to hear them. That's what made it sting more. Still, she kept walking, scanning the room for an empty table. She spotted one near the back and headed that way, but the boys weren't done. They cut her off halfway across the room. Hey, Dylan said, stepping right in front of her. You lost or something? Marina looked up at him. He was taller than she expected, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than her rent. No, just looking for a seat. Jace snickered. Try the parking lot. Brandon grinned at her awkwardly. Or the kids' table. Marina felt her cheeks warming, but she forced her voice to stay steady. Can you move? Oh, she's got a little fire, Dylan said. Cute. She didn't reply. She just stared at him, not angry, not scared, just tired. She had met boys like this before in other cities, other schools. They were always loud, always convinced the world spun around them. And usually, she ignored them. But the difference tonight was that Dylan didn't like being ignored. He moved closer, lowering his voice. Look, we're just messing around. Don't take it so seriously. Before Marina could respond, the DJ switched songs and someone shouted for a picture. The noise made the boys pause, and Marina slipped by them, finally reaching her table. She sat down, tapping her fingers on her lap to release the tension. Don't let them get to you, she murmured. Some students glanced her way, offering half smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. They'd seen what happened, but didn't want to get involved. Typical. A girl from her history class, Amaya, came over briefly. Hey, you okay? Yeah, Marina said softly. I'm fine. Amaya hesitated, then nodded and hurried back to her group. Marina appreciated the effort, even if it lasted only 10 seconds. She looked out at the dance floor, watching everyone laugh and sway to the music. Part of her wished she could join them. Part of her wished she could forget everything. The new school, her uncle's long hours at work, her own frustration with constantly having to start over. But she also knew something the boys didn't. Something no one here knew. Every bruise she'd ever taken, every hit she'd ever absorbed in the ring, had shaped her into someone who didn't break easily. Even if she didn't look like it now. She didn't want trouble, not tonight. But trouble had already seen her, and it wasn't done searching. But the moment she thought the worst was over, something happened that dragged Dylan and his crew back into her path. And this time, they weren't joking around. Marina thought she could disappear into the background again, just long enough for the night to calm down. She tried focusing on the decorations, the food table, anything that didn't involve the 3 boys who clearly had nothing better to do. But the thing about people like Dylan, Brandon, and Jace, once they find someone to single out, they don't just move on. They circle back, they push, they poke, they test how far they can go. And Marina noticed something the moment she caught Dylan looking her way again. He wasn't laughing this time. Brandon elbowed him. Dude, you see her sitting alone? This is, like, prime setup for a prank. Jace grinned. Yeah, man. We could spice this place up. Everyone's bored anyway. Dylan didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed locked on Marina as if he was sizing her up. I've got an idea, he finally said. Something everyone will remember. Brandon snorted. Bro, it's prom, not a roast. Go easy. Nah, Dylan said. She asked for it. And that right there, that was the moment something shifted. Because Marina didn't do a thing besides exist. Yet somehow, existing was enough for them to treat her like a target. These kinds of boys didn't need a reason. They only needed an opportunity. On the other side of the room, Marina sat with her fingers laced tightly in her lap. She kept glancing toward the dance floor, reminding herself that she came here to enjoy the night. Maybe she could dance later. Maybe. She didn't expect anyone to approach her, so when a voice came from her left, she turned quickly. Do you want some punch? A guy asked. He was tall, with light brown skin and a calm expression. His name was Trevor Sandoval. They shared an English class. He held out a plastic cup toward her. Oh, thanks, Marina said, surprised. Trevor shrugged lightly. You look like you could use a friend right now. Is it that obvious? She asked, managing a small smile. I mean, not really, but those three idiots weren't exactly subtle. Marina sighed. I'm fine, just didn't think prom would start like this. Trevor sat down across from her. People like them are loud because they know if they're quiet, no one would care they're here. She laughed softly. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Maybe a little. For a moment, it felt like things were settling. Marina sipped the punch, letting the sweetness calm her nerves. Trevor talked about college plans, how he wanted to study in Miami, how he hated math but loved photography. Marina found herself relaxing without meaning to, but then the music lowered a bit, and a group of students near the entrance started laughing. Hard. Not regular laughter. The kind that says something bad is happening. Trevor looked over Marina's shoulder. His expression changed instantly. Oh no. What? Marina asked. Trevor didn't answer, but her stomach tightened. She turned around and saw them. Dylan and Brandon walked in carrying a huge silver punch bowl between them, sloshing red punch everywhere. Students moved out of the way, whispering, some already filming. Jace followed behind with a stack of cups and a smirk that made Marina's skin prickle. Trevor muttered, please tell me they're not. But she already knew. They were coming for her. Dylan's eyes were locked on Marina like she was the final piece of some twisted joke. Marina stood up slowly. I'm not dealing with this tonight. Trevor rose with her. Do you want me to get a chaperone? No, she said firmly. Just stay close. Dylan approached like he owned the place. Hey Marina, we brought refreshments. Brandon held the bowl a little higher, letting some of the punch drip. Jace handed Brandon a cup and whispered loudly, should we pour it on her dress or just dump it all at once? A few people gasped. Marina felt eyes all over her. Trevor stepped forward. Back off, man. Dylan's voice dropped. Move, this has nothing to do with you. Marina watched them carefully, not afraid, not yet angry, just done, completely done. Put the bowl down, she said quietly. Oh? She speaks, Jace teased. Do it, she repeated, her tone sharper this time. Dylan tilted his head. Or what? Trevor whispered toward her. Marina, maybe don't engage. But she didn't back down. Her posture changed, not dramatically, but enough. Shoulders loosened, chin slightly raised, feet planted. Years of training had taught her something important. The first hit isn't always physical. It's the moment you decide you won't let someone push you anymore. And Dylan noticed. His grin faltered for half a second, but instead of stepping down, he lifted the bowl higher. But before anyone could react, something happened on the dance floor that pulled the attention of every single person in the room, forcing Marina and the boys into a situation none of them expected. Before Dylan could finish whatever he had planned, the music suddenly skipped, then cut off completely. The DJ smacked the equipment, looking confused, and the room fell into this awkward, buzzing silence. You know the kind. Everyone's standing still, not sure if something's wrong or if it's just a glitch. But that tiny pause, It pulled every pair of eyes toward the center of the room, including Dylan's crew, Marina, Trevor, everybody. "What happened?" someone near the speakers asked. "No idea," the DJ replied. "Hold on, give me a sec." A crowd of students drifted toward the dance floor, trying to see if a power cord came loose or if someone tripped over something. But the real problem wasn't the music. It was the kid standing near the microphone, red-faced and shaky, arguing with a chaperone. Marina squinted. She recognized him, Elias Monroe, a sophomore who tried too hard to impress upperclassmen and almost always failed. He'd apparently grabbed the mic to do some kind of shout-out or joke, and the chaperone wasn't having it. "I wasn't going to say anything bad," Elias protested. "Give me the microphone," the chaperone insisted. "I was just gonna, fine." He jerked his hand away, and the mic screeched loudly before falling to the floor. Every student flinched at the ear-piercing sound. Trevor leaned toward Marina. "Why is he even up there? He's not part of prom committee." "I don't know," she said, watching the scene. But here's what changed everything. Elias's sudden outburst gave Dylan the perfect opportunity to escalate his own plan without anyone noticing right away. While the crowd's attention stayed locked on the DJ booth, Dylan whispered sharply, "Now, let's go before the music comes back." Brandon and Jace snapped out of their confusion and nodded. Brandon tightened his grip on the punch bowl. Jace grabbed Dylan's shoulder. "Dude, hurry," Jace whispered. "People are looking away. Perfect timing." Marina's heart hammered, slow and controlled, the way it always did right before a fight. Her uncle used to say, "The body knows before the mind does." And right now, her body was sending a clear message. Trevor sensed it too. "Marina, breathe. Don't do anything crazy." She whispered back, "I'm not, but I won't let them dump that on me." Dylan approached with a slow swagger, acting like he was doing her a favor by letting her see it coming. Brandon followed, grin stretching across his face like this was the funniest thing he'd done in years. "Yo, everyone!" Jace shouted suddenly. "Look over here!" A few students turned, confused. Others who hadn't been distracted by Elias now noticed the boys gathering near Marina. Jace spread his arms dramatically. "We're about to christen the new girl with a little prom welcome!" Groans rippled through the crowd. A couple of kids tried to say something, but they didn't push hard enough to stop the trio. Trevor stepped in front of Marina. "Seriously? Grow up." "Move," Dylan said, voice low and final. "No." Brandon rolled his shoulders. "Bro, we don't want to mess up that pretty suit of yours, so..." Marina gently touched Trevor's arm. "Let me." He turned to her, eyes wide. "Marina, don't." "I mean it," she whispered. "Step back." Something in her eyes must have convinced him, because Trevor reluctantly shifted to the side, still near, still ready. But he let her take the front. Marina faced Dylan directly now. Up close, she noticed things other people probably didn't. The twitch in his jaw, the way his fingers tightened slightly on the bowl's rim, the stiffness in his shoulders. He was trying to act casual, but he was annoyed she hadn't melted the first time they confronted her. "What do you want?" she asked, voice steady. Dylan smirked. "Just trying to help you stand out tonight." "You already did that," she replied. "Now put the bowl down." Jace burst out laughing. "Or what? You gonna cry and run to the bathroom?" Brandon chimed in. "She looks about 2 seconds from it." Marina breathed through her nose. Calm, controlled. Her uncle's voice echoed faintly in her head. "Don't swing first, but don't wait so long that you lose the moment." Then, out of nowhere, Dylan lifted the bowl higher. Students gasped. Marina stepped forward. And then, the fire alarm blasted through the ballroom. Everyone jumped. Red lights flashed. Sprinklers clattered but didn't go off yet. Chaperones shouted over the noise, trying to figure out what triggered the system. A few panicked kids ran toward the exits. Dylan's grip slipped. The bowl wobbled. Punch sloshed dangerously toward the rim. But before it spilled, Marina made a decision. One that would flip the entire night upside down and expose exactly who she really was. The alarm was deafening. The flashing red lights flickered across everyone's faces, making half the room look like a crime scene. Students darted toward the exits while teachers yelled that everything was probably fine, to stay calm, to wait. But nobody listens during a fire alarm. And in the middle of all that chaos, the punch bowl slipped again. Brandon tightened his grip, but the alarm startled him enough that the liquid sloshed over the edge, splattering across his sleeve. "Dude!" he yelled. "My suit!" Jace cackled. Man, you look like you fought a fruit punch monster. Dylan, though, didn't laugh. He looked irritated, like the alarm had ruined his perfect moment. His eyes snapped back to Marina, and something stubborn lodged into his expression. You know what? Dylan muttered. Forget waiting. He raised the bowl higher. Marina didn't think. Her body acted before her mind even caught up. She stepped forward, grabbed the edge of the bowl with one hand, and yanked it down. The force surprised Dylan, and the bowl dropped out of his grip, smashing onto the floor with a loud crack. Red punch exploded everywhere, on their shoes, on the carpet, splashing up the legs of Dylan's expensive suit. A ring of shocked gasps echoed around them. Jace's mouth fell open. Bro, she just... Before he could finish, Dylan grabbed Marina's wrist. Big mistake. She didn't twist away. She didn't step back. She just looked him straight in the eyes, calm, absolutely calm, and said, "Let go." "No," Dylan hissed. "You're not walking away from this." He squeezed harder, and that was it. The moment the line was crossed, Marina's voice dropped to a level only he could hear. "I'm serious. Let go." Dylan didn't. If anything, he tightened his grip, trying to make a point in front of the crowd. "Say sorry," he demanded, "right now." "For what?" she asked. "For disrespecting me." Marina exhaled through her nose. "All right." Students leaned closer, expecting her to fold, to break, to apologize, just to diffuse the tension. But instead, she shifted her stance, subtle, just enough to ground her feet the way she'd done 1,000 times in her uncle's training garage. Trevor, watching from behind her, whispered, Oh no." Jace puffed his chest. "Dude, just drag her out. She needs to chill." Brandon cracked his knuckles, ready to pile on. Marina kept her eyes locked on Dylan. "You want me to say something?" "Yeah," he spat. "Say you shouldn't have." He didn't get to finish, because the second he jerked her wrist again, Marina snapped her arm free using a quick pivot. Clean, controlled, precise. Dylan stumbled forward slightly, thrown off balance. "What the?" he sputtered. Students gasped again, but louder this time. Jace laughed nervously. "Bro, did she just..." Marina finally spoke loud enough for the crowd to hear. "I'm not scared of you." Dylan's face flushed red, part anger, part humiliation. "You think you can embarrass me? Here? In front of everyone?" "You did that yourself," she said. She turned to walk away. Dylan grabbed her shoulder. Trevor yelled, "Don't touch her!" Jace stepped in. "Hey, let him handle it." Teachers were tangled in the chaos of the alarm and the panicking students. No one had reached them yet. Dylan's voice rose, shaky with rage. "You really don't know who you're messing with." Marina turned slowly. "I could say the same." For a moment, there was silence between them. A tense, razor-thin pause where anything could happen. Dylan took a step forward. Brandon followed. Jace cracked his neck, and Marina finally realized something that made her stomach harden. They weren't backing off. They weren't joking. They were about to take this too far. Her uncle's voice echoed in her memory, steady and familiar. If someone puts you in a corner, you don't wait for them to decide how the fight ends. Marina lifted her chin. "Move." Dylan smirked. "Make me." But before Marina could react, someone else shoved their way through the circle. A move that flipped the situation in a direction no one expected, pushing the tension to a whole new level. The crowd split slightly as someone pushed through the circle. Not a teacher, not another student trying to record the drama, but someone who looked like he'd just sprinted across the entire ballroom. "Dylan, Brandon, Jace, what are you doing?" It was Coach Avery, one of the school's assistant PE teachers. He wasn't even supposed to be on prom duty tonight, but he'd come in to help teachers evacuate students after the alarm went off. His face was flushed with frustration, his tie crooked, his sleeves rolled up. Dylan froze for a second. Brandon straightened. Jace stood stiff like he was waiting to get called out for something he didn't study for. "Coach, hey, we weren't doing anything," Dylan blurted. Coach Avery ignored him entirely and looked straight at Marina. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "Yes, I'm fine." Trevor stepped forward. "No, she's not." They were about to dump a bowl of punch on her. Brandon threw up his hands. "Dude, we were just messing around." "That's not messing around," Coach Avery snapped. "That's harassment." Dylan's jaw clenched. "We didn't even do anything." "Because I got here in time," the coach shot back. "Move away from her, now." A few students clapped quietly, relieved the situation was finally being handled by an adult. But Marina knew this wasn't over. Dylan didn't look scared, he looked humiliated. And humiliation mixed with anger? It was a dangerous combination, especially for someone like him. The fire alarm finally clicked off. The blasting noise faded, leaving behind a ringing silence and a room full of shaken students. A teacher announced, "Everyone outside now. We need to confirm the building is safe." Kids started filing toward the exits in a giant flood. The tension around Marina didn't disappear, it just thinned enough for Dylan to pretend he didn't care anymore. He stepped back with a mocking grin. "Whatever, forget it." Brandon elbowed him. "Yeah, man, let's go. This isn't worth it." But while they walked off, Jace paused. He stared at Marina, not taunting, not laughing. Something else. Something calculating. "You got lucky," he muttered before turning away. Marina felt Trevor come up beside her. "You sure you're all right?" "Yeah," she said softly. "You didn't look scared at all," he said. "Most people would have freaked out." Marina shrugged. "I've dealt with worse." "You shouldn't have to deal with this at all," he said, his voice firm. Coach Avery motioned for them to head outside with the rest of the crowd. Marina followed, her steps slow but steady. As she walked, she could feel dozens of eyes on her, some curious, some impressed, some pitying. Outside, everyone gathered on the sidewalk near the hotel entrance. The warm Florida air pressed against her skin. Students chatted in anxious groups. Trevor and Marina stood to the side, away from the clusters of gossiping kids. "You really handled yourself back there," he said. Marina looked at him with a hint of a smile. "Thanks, but honestly, I wish none of it happened." "I get that," Trevor replied. "People like them. They pick their targets carefully." "I know," she said quietly. There was a pause, not awkward, just thoughtful. Trevor kicked at the curb lightly. "So, is it true?" Marina blinked. "Is what true?" "That you box?" Her eyebrows raised a little. "Who told you that?" "I overheard some kids from your gym in class last week. They said you're really good." Marina huffed out a small laugh. "I guess it's not a secret anymore." "Why didn't you say anything tonight?" he asked. "Because it wouldn't matter," she replied. "People don't listen when they already decided who you are." Trevor nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." Before either of them could say more, a shrill whistle cut through the air. "Everyone," a teacher called out. "We just received word it's a false alarm. Someone pulled the lever in the hallway. You can go back inside." Students groaned. Some cheered. Everyone turned around and started heading back into the ballroom. Trevor looked at Marina. "You want to go back in? We can sit together this time." Marina considered it. Part of her wanted to go home and forget the night existed, but another part of her, a bigger part, refused to let Dylan and his friends think they'd pushed her out. "Yeah," she said, "I'm not running." Trevor grinned. "Cool, let's go." They walked inside together, but Marina didn't realize Dylan, Brandon, and Jace weren't done with her. The false alarm didn't cool them down, it made them reckless. And as the music started again, and the chaperones tried to get things back to normal, the trio regrouped near the back of the room, whispering urgently. Jace pointed at Marina with his chin. "Round two?" Dylan's eyes narrowed. Round two. But what they didn't know was that Marina was done playing defense, and the next move wouldn't be theirs anymore. Back inside, the ballroom felt different, not calmer, just tighter. Like everyone sensed the night had taken a turn they couldn't explain yet. The lights from the chandeliers reflected off the sticky punch stains on the carpet. Teachers were scattered around, trying to regain control of the event, but the students were whispering non-stop. And every whisper circled back to Marina. Marina and Trevor took a seat at one of the small round tables near the dance floor. Trevor grabbed 2 bottles of water and handed her one. "You need this," he said. "Thanks," she replied, twisting off the cap. He leaned in a little, lowering his voice. "Just keep your guard up. Those guys still look pissed." Marina scanned the room. Dylan leaned against a wall with his arms crossed, staring at her like he was studying a puzzle he couldn't solve. Brandon bounced nervously on his heels. Jay swayed slightly, cracking his knuckles like he thought it made him look tough. "They think I embarrassed them," Marina said quietly. "You didn't embarrass them," Trevor replied. "They embarrassed themselves." "Yeah," she said, "but people like that, they don't see it that way." Trevor sighed. Maybe we should stay close to the teachers. No, Marina said, shaking her head. That's exactly what they want, to make me feel like I need protection. Trevor studied her a moment. You know, most people don't talk like that. Well, most people haven't been punched in the face as many times as I have, she replied, letting out a tiny laugh. Trevor laughed with her, but it was cut short when a glass clinked loudly on the floor. They both turned. Jace had kicked a cup toward their table. Oops, Jace said, smiling wide. My bad. Brandon snickered. Dylan stayed still, arms crossed, eyes locked on Marina. Trevor muttered under his breath, Here we go again. Marina stood up slowly. Stay here. Trevor grabbed her wrist gently. Marina, don't walk toward them. I'm not, she said, slipping her hand from his. I just don't want them near you. That caught him off guard, but before he could say anything, Marina walked past the cup and toward the dance floor. Not toward the boys, just away from them. She stepped into the crowd of students dancing, letting the music surround her. She wasn't dancing, but she moved slightly, just enough to blend in. For a moment, she almost looked like any other girl trying to enjoy her night. Trevor watched her, worried. And the boys? They watched her too. Look at her, Brandon scoffed, acting like nothing happened. She thinks she won, Jace added. Dylan didn't say anything. He stared harder. Finally, he muttered, She's not walking out of here thinking she's better than us. Jace tilted his head. So, what's the plan? Dylan didn't answer right away. He stepped away from the wall, slowly rolling up his sleeves. Brandon's eyebrows shot up. Yo, what are you doing? She wants to act tough, Dylan said. Let's see how tough she is. Brandon and Jace exchanged uneasy glances. Jace lowered his voice. We're not actually gonna hit a girl, right? I mean, this is still a school event. Dylan shot him a glare. Relax, I'm not stupid. I'm just gonna scare her. Put her in her place. Make her cry or run. That's enough. Brandon smirked. Now that I can get behind. The trio started toward the dance floor. Meanwhile, Marina's heart beat in a steady rhythm. She wasn't scared. She wasn't stressed. She was waiting. Her training taught her that people reveal everything in the moments when they think no one's watching. And right now, she saw Dylan's full intent the second he stepped toward her. She turned slightly, watching him approach. Trevor saw it too and jumped from his seat. Marina, they're coming. She lifted her hands subtly, not a wave, just a tiny gesture telling him to stay back. He stopped. The dance crowd began noticing Dylan pushing through. Students parted, confused, then alarmed. Dylan, chill, someone shouted. Dude, not here, another said. But Dylan didn't slow down. He pointed at Marina. You think you can disrespect me and walk away? Marina finally spoke, her voice steady. You caused your own embarrassment. Oh, so you're a comedian now, Dylan mocked. She shook her head once. No, I'm tired. Jace stepped forward. Tired of what? Marina looked at all three of them, her expression unchanged. Tired of boys who think they can do anything they want because no one ever told them to stop. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Dylan's jaw clenched. Say that again. No, Marina replied. It's your turn to listen. Brandon scoffed. To what? You lecturing us? Marina looked at Dylan, not Brandon. You don't scare me. Another wave of whispers shook the crowd. Dylan stepped closer, inches from her face. You should be scared. Marina raised her chin. Why? He didn't have an answer, just anger. He grabbed her forearm, and that was the moment the air changed. Marina didn't yank back. She didn't flinch. She simply shifted her weight, turned her wrist sharply, grabbed his hand, and applied pressure to his thumb, just enough to force him to release her. Dylan jerked his hand back in shock. What? Students murmured louder. Jace's eyes widened. How did she? Marina stepped back, hands still lowered, voice calm. Touch me again, she said, and we'll see how far this goes. For the first time all night, Dylan hesitated. He glanced around and saw dozens of eyes on him, recording, watching, judging. The humiliation hit him square in the chest, and humiliation turns some people violent. Dylan squared his shoulders. Trevor yelled, Marina! But she didn't look away. She didn't blink. Not once. She braced herself, because Dylan was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. But right as he lunged toward her, something happened behind Marina, something she didn't see coming. that changed the direction of the entire confrontation. The second Dylan lunged, the music cut for the third time that night, not because of the DJ, not because of a glitch, but because someone yanked the power cord straight out of the wall. A sharp pop echoed through the room as the speakers died. Everyone froze, and in that sudden silence, Trevor Sandoval shoved through the circle and grabbed Dylan from behind, locking his arms around Dylan's chest. "Back off," Trevor shouted. "You're not touching her," Dylan thrashed. "Get off me." Trevor held tight, but Dylan twisted violently, elbowing Trevor in the ribs. Trevor gasped and lost his grip. Dylan spun around, shoving him backward. Trevor stumbled and nearly fell, catching himself on a table. Marina whipped around toward Trevor. "Are you okay?" He nodded, breathless. "Yeah, it's fine, I'm fine." But it wasn't fine, because Dylan saw Marina's attention shift for a split second, and he took advantage of it. He charged. Brandon and Jace didn't try to stop him. In fact, Brandon stepped aside. Jace smirked. Marina turned back just in time to see Dylan right in front of her. He swung his arm, not like someone who trained, not like someone who fought, more like a kid letting his anger explode without thinking. Marina didn't have to think either. Her body responded on instinct. She ducked. Dylan's arm whooshed past her shoulder. Students gasped in unison. "Yo, what is he doing? Someone stop him. He's gonna get himself expelled." But none of the teachers saw it yet. None were close enough. The chaperones were dealing with other parts of the crowd, trying to figure out why the music shut off again. And here, in this pocket of the room, it was just them. Dylan swung again. Marina sidestepped. He stumbled forward, losing his balance. Brandon laughed. "Bro, she's making you look stupid," Jace added. "This is painful to watch." Dylan snapped. "Shut up." He rounded on Marina with a wild glare. "Stop moving!" Marina shook her head. "Then stop trying to hit me." Her voice wasn't mocking or loud, just matter of fact. That made him even angrier. He lunged again. This time, Marina didn't dodge. She stepped in, a controlled move, legs bent, shoulders relaxed, a tiny pivot to redirect his momentum. Her uncle had drilled it into her since she was 12. An angry opponent collapses on themselves. Don't push them, just guide them where they're already falling. Dylan's own momentum carried him forward, and Marina used one hand on his shoulder to shift him slightly offline. He stumbled hard, catching himself on the edge of a table. Cups clattered to the floor. Students howled. "Dude, she juked him! He can't touch her! He's getting worked!" Dylan whipped his head around, face burning with humiliation. "You think this is a joke?" "No," Marina said softly, "but I tried to walk away." "And I told you," he growled. "You're not better than me." He charged again, and this time Marina raised her hands, not in aggression, not in fear, just ready. Her stance was clean, balanced, solid, a full transformation from the shy girl who walked in earlier. Jace's laughter cut off, his jaw slackened. "Yo, what is she doing?" Trevor whispered. "Oh no, she's actually about to..." Dylan swung, a sloppy right hook. Marina leaned back half an inch. The punch brushed past the air near her cheek. Then, one single move, a light tap to the chest with her open palm. Not a punch, not a strike, just a controlled push that used Dylan's own speed against him. He flew backward. Students parted like a wave. He crashed onto the floor, sliding slightly on the slick punch stains. Silence. A huge, stunned silence. Even the students who hated drama stared wide-eyed. Trevor muttered under his breath, nearly in awe. "I knew she boxed, but that was insane." Brandon stepped backward, eyes darting from Dylan to Marina. "Bro, what just happened?" Jace swallowed hard. He didn't make a joke this time. Dylan lay on the floor, blinking up at the ceiling, breath knocked out of him. His ego cracked open in front of the entire room. Marina didn't move toward him. She didn't follow up. She didn't brag. She just lowered her hands slowly. "You need to stop," she said simply. "Before you do something you can't take back." The crowd murmured, soft at first, then building. She didn't even hit him. He fell on his own. She handled him better than any of us would. Dylan sat up, furious and embarrassed, punch stains smeared across his sleeves and pants. His hair was a mess. His chest heaved from rage and embarrassment. "You think this is over?" he rasped. Marina met his glare. "I think you should be done, but that's up to you." Brandon looked at Dylan. "Man, maybe just stop." Even Jace nodded reluctantly. "Yeah, this is making us all look bad." Dylan pushed himself to his feet, shaking with anger. He opened his mouth to yell, but every student suddenly turned toward the ballroom entrance. Someone new had stepped in, a figure whose presence alone made the entire crowd go quiet. But the moment Marina saw who it was, her breath caught in her chest, because this wasn't a teacher, a student, or a chaperone. It was someone she hoped wouldn't show up tonight, someone who knew exactly what she was capable of. Standing in the doorway, framed by the ballroom lights, was a man Marina knew instantly. Broad shoulders, faded gym sweatshirt, hands wrapped in athletic tape because he always forgot to take it off after training. Her uncle, Ray Cole, the one person she hoped wouldn't see any of this. He scanned the room, first the crowd of frozen students, then Dylan's crumpled posture, then Marina's stance still half set, like she was waiting for the next punch. His eyes tightened. Marina, just her name, calm but heavy. She straightened instinctively. "Uncle Ray, what are you doing here?" Ray stepped forward, ignoring every staring student. "Your aunt texted me. Said the alarm went off and kids were running around out here like the building was on fire. I drove over to check on you." Trevor stepped aside as Ray approached. Dylan's face twisted at the attention. He tried to stand taller, but he only looked smaller with Ray now towering a few feet away. Ray looked at Marina again. "You all right?" She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'm okay." Ray raised a brow. "You sure? Because from the looks of this floor and him," he jerked his chin toward Dylan. "Something happened." Dylan's face reddened. She shoved me." Ray turned to him fully. "Did she now?" The room went dead still. Brandon and Jace edged behind Dylan, suddenly realizing this wasn't a normal uncle. This wasn't a regular adult. This was someone trained, someone who carried the weight of discipline in every movement. Dylan swallowed. I didn't hit her or anything." "You tried," Trevor called out from behind Marina. Brandon slapped Trevor's arm. "Shut up, man." Ray held up a hand. "Let him talk." Trevor stepped forward. He didn't just try, he swung twice. She dodged both. Murmurs spread through the room like wildfire. Dylan snapped, "It wasn't like that." Jace chimed in weakly. "We were just messing around." Ray turned his eyes to Jace, calm, unreadable. "Does that line ever work for you boys?" Jace shut his mouth immediately. Ray looked at Marina again. "Did you hit him?" Marina shook her head. "No, I didn't need to." Ray let out a long breath, relief mixed with something like pride. "Good." Dylan's voice cracked. "She made me fall." "You fell because you lost control," Ray replied. "I can see that from here." More whispers spread through the crowd. "He lost his balance. She barely touched him." "He's the one who snapped." Dylan's jaw clenched, hard. His pride was gasping for air. Ray stepped closer, not threatening, just firm. "Listen, son, you're angry, but anger without control, it'll bury you. Whatever you think she did to you, I promise you did it to yourself." Dylan's chest heaved. He wanted to argue, to yell, to blame, but every student's eyes were on him. Phones pointed his direction. Brandon and Jace refused to look at him at all. And Marina? She wasn't gloating. She wasn't smirking. She was watching him with calm eyes, tired eyes, that somehow made him feel smaller than anything else. That's what finally broke him. He shoved past Ray, past Marina, through the crowd. "Forget this. I'm done." Brandon and Jace scrambled after him, tripping over chairs and nearly knocking over a table in their rush to escape the embarrassment. The crowd parted wordlessly. Ray let them go. He turned back to Marina. "You didn't lose your temper. That's good. That means you learned something." Marina sighed. "I didn't want trouble." "I know," Ray said gently. "But sometimes trouble finds you even when you do everything right." Trevor walked up, rubbing the side of his ribs. "She handled it way better than anyone else would have." Ray half smiled. "That's because she's been training since she was 10. A few students gasped. "She's a fighter? No wonder she was so calm." Bro, she's legit. Trevor grinned. I knew it. Marina rolled her eyes a little. Great, now everybody knows. Ray put a hand on her shoulder. Nothing wrong with people knowing you can defend yourself. The important thing is how you choose to use that ability. She nodded. I didn't want to hurt him. And you didn't, Ray said. You defended yourself without stepping over the line. That's rare. You should be proud of that. The crowd slowly began to relax. The DJ plugged the system back in. Teachers returned to their stations. Someone picked up the broken punch bowl, and the room gradually slipped back into something close to normal. Trevor nudged Marina gently. For what it's worth, you didn't just stand up for yourself. You stood up for every kid those guys ever pushed around. Marina smiled faintly. I just didn't want to be their target. Sometimes, Trevor replied, the things you don't want to be is what ends up showing people who you really are. Ray nodded approvingly. You ready to go home? Marina glanced at the dance floor, the lights, the music, the students slowly drifting back into the moment. Then she shook her head. Not yet. Ray grinned. All right, enjoy yourself. I'll be nearby if you need me. He stepped back quietly, slipping into the watchful stillness of the chaperones. Trevor offered his hand. Dance? Marina smirked. Only if you don't step on my feet. I'll do my best, he laughed. They walked onto the dance floor together, and for the first time that night, Marina felt light. Not because the drama ended, but because she didn't let it define her. She wrote her own ending. Some people try to measure your worth by how easy you are to break. But real strength isn't in swinging first, or even swinging at all. Real strength is staying grounded when someone else is trying to pull you apart. Marina didn't fight because she wanted to hurt anyone. She defended herself because she knew her value, and that's the message here. Know your worth, stand your ground, and never let anyone control the story you tell about yourself. If this story spoke to you, even a little, don't leave without sharing your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories that hit with heart, truth, and tension, make sure you subscribe. Your support helps bring more powerful stories to life.